This is James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Welcome to a more civilized podcast. This is the podcast you're looking for. You may not go about your business. Stay here, listen, and then move along.
Woo! Hey, welcome, listeners, to a totally unannounced surprise Nerf Nugget we have for you today.
Woo! Did not even announce it on Twitter or Facebook or anything?
Probably maybe like a day or two before. But
verbally unannounced.
Verbally unannounced in a previous episode. No. Heck no. Anyway, yeah, this is our fourth Nerf Nugget, which I've creatively titled State of the Resistance, which I will do probably twice a year until Resistance is over. Because what this little Nerf Nugget is going to be is I'm just going to summarize, if you have not been watching Resistance, or if you whatever, I'm just going to summarize what's happened so far. So I'll probably do this before each season starts and then before each season restarts after the winter break. So expect this going forward in the fall. But anyway, just as I'm still Kyler, by the way, and Chris is over here not paying attention.
I'm still Chris.
And Ross is over here barely paying attention.
You assume so much.
I do indeed.
Ross was paying attention. He was just waiting for his opening to say something clever.
Yeah. Sadly, Ross's brain.
I heard you, and I was trying to come up with something clever to say.
Oh, anyway.
But I was too distracted by
Really what it was is I was waiting for you to chew out Chris. I was going to wait for that to finish, then I was going to do my part. But
Okay,
you did it anyway.
Fine.
So continue, sir, with this one-man show.
That's right. This episode really will be.
True.
Mostly because these two guys aren't really watching Resistance, and I am. So the series, for if you haven't been watching it, the series is set 3 decades after the events of Return of the Jedi, in the era of Star Wars sequel trilogy. This is set about 6 months before Force Awakens. And follows a pilot who's recruited by the Resistance to spy on the growing threat of the First Order. The series begins 6 months before The Force Awakens and will eventually cross over with it. So I do look forward to that.
Yeah, that does
Hopefully, I really hope that we see that like at the end of this first season. I would love to see the events of Force Awakens.
The tricky thing there is that does not leave them a lot of wiggle room before they're caught up with Last Jedi. I mean, I guess they've got a whole year before Last Jedi, but before Episode 9, but that's...
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll plan it out right.
Yeah, that's right. They did announce it. It's just 1 year after.
Yeah, hey, news segment real quick in a mini little...
No.
Is that coming up later?
Yeah.
There will be news. Mysterious news.
Yep. Anyway.
Hashtag adequate.
That was the Wikipedia summary of the series, sort of introducing it. Here's my summary of the actual episodes of what has happened so far in like the 10, I think, episodes, something like that. 10 or 11 episodes we've got, yeah. So Kazuda Xiono is a kind of dumb, young, naive pilot for the Republic when he gets recruited by the Resistance as a spy. He's sent to the Colossus station on the planet Castellon. While there, his cocky attitude gets him involved in a race with the station's 5 ace pilots, known creatively as the Aces. Kaz unwittingly stumbles into and somehow thwarts a plot. Oh, sorry, that's the first episode. It was right there. So then Kaz, in the next episode, unwittingly stumbles into and somehow thwarts a plot by pirates to attack the station. That's basically just the second episode there. He then makes another poor decision, one of many, and steals some hyperfuel for a friend who is really a douche and up-and-coming racer like himself. That friend, by the way, voiced by Elijah Wood, I found out.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey.
So he's a total D-bag, but there it is. Things go poorly, and the douche nearly dies, saved only by Kaz's clumsiness at the last second.
So wait. So you're saying the Colossus is actually the Grey Havens?
I guess, yeah. He's gone to a galaxy far, far away. So he steals the hyperfuel for this douchey guy. Things go poorly, and the douche nearly dies, saved only by Kaz's clumsiness at the last second. And as I was writing this summary up, that's when I realized, I'm just now realizing that Kaz is essentially a slightly more palatable Jar Jar Binks. Yes. It's not great. The main character is a little irritating, unfortunately. Really? Yeah. Going to ignore that for now. Anyway, Kaz then stumbles into the knowledge that the First Order is protecting the Colossus from pirates in the same way that a mob boss protects your business from fire.
Right.
And the very next episode, Kaz discovers that the First Order is gathering up children and pressuring unknown regions' systems into joining the First Order, which is callback to the Aftermath series.
All to make cheaper sneakers.
Yep, exactly.
What's the real cost? 'Cause sneakers don't seem that much cheaper.
That's exactly what I was going to go to. High five, Chris. Oh, man. Yeah, so Kaz and Poe accidentally rescue a pirate who infiltrates the station. They do get to fight a Kowakian ape lizard, which is way cooler than it sounds. So the Kowakian monkey lizard is Salacious Crumb, the little creature that sits on Jabba's tail and is super irritating. So that's the monkey lizard. The Kowakian ape lizard is massive. It's like the size of a Gundark from the Clone Wars. But it has kind of the similar features. It has a big long beak, but also has like teeth in it and stuff. It looks way, way cool. It was actually, that episode is probably my favorite so far. Just for the ape lizard alone, it's way cool. Hey, that pirate that they rescued, she totally sabotages the station so that pirates can attack it unhindered. Because she tells them that, hey, I'm not a pirate. And they go, oh, okay. Why don't you come back to our station with us? And they totally buy it.
Yosef Bridge.
Yeah, exactly. So she totally sabotages the station so pirates can attack it unhindered. Kaz and the gang fend off the pirates who were working for the First Order. And then Captain Doza, the station president, dictator, king, mafia boss, something, goes into bed with the First Order for their protection. Because they're basically like, oh, well, we can't really stop these pirates from killing, but if you were to sign over the station to us and let us, use it as a base, it's your typical extortion thing. Yeager's brother, Marcus Speedstar, comes to the station to race to bring money to the station.
Marcus Speedstar.
Yeah.
In finest Star Wars naming tradition.
Yep. He also killed Yeager's family or something. It was some sort implied that he was somehow responsible for the death of Yeager's wife and children or something.
Their star so fast.
I guess. Yeah. So there was drama. Captain Pyre, the gold armored stormtrooper that we've seen throughout the season so far, he negotiates the arrangement then between the Colossus and the First Order, where the First Order is going to make them their biatches. Kaz, during this episode, Kaz is hiding in Doza's closet and finds an Imperial uniform, finds out that Captain Doza was a former Imperial officer, and so he's like, oh no, he must be a bad man at heart. Next, Kaz and Poe are flying around when Kaz screws something up in his ship, unsurprisingly, and he gets rescued by a Resistance CR-90, and judging by the paint job, I'm pretty sure it's an old Phoenix Squadron Corvette from Rebels. Like the paint job, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm pretty sure. I forgot to double check though, so who knows? He gets to meet General Leia. She inexplicably decides he is worthy of getting a new X-Wing, so he gets a present for that, and everybody agrees that war is definitely coming between the First Order and the Republic. And that's where we end off. Yeah. So far, I would say this has been the least impressive start to a TV show of the three. Clone Wars, Rebels,
Are
Resistance.
you including the Clone Wars movie as the introduction to that TV show?
No, because that's terrible.
Okay.
I
had to verify, because if it's worse than that...
on its own... Okay, so, quick story time. When that movie came out, I was working for Sam's Club in their marketing department, which meant I went out and tried to hustle people into buying Sam's Club memberships. So I got to drive around for my job. But since I was paid hourly, and by the way, if you're running a business and you pay your salespeople by an hourly basis, expect nothing to get done, because this is exactly the rationale they use. It's the rationale I'm about to explain to you. I said, hey, well, it doesn't matter if I sell any, because whether I have a good day or a bad day, I get paid the same, and I get no praise either way. So I'm going to go to the movies today and get paid for it. So I went to the matinee show of Star Wars, the Clone Wars movie, because I'd heard, hey, George Lucas has made this animated Star Wars movie, and I got done and I was like, wow, that was a complete waste of time. I then told Ross not to go see it, that I had taken my wife to go see it, and it was terrible. I told my wife that I had gone to see it with Ross, and that we weren't going to go see it because it was terrible.
Web of lies.
Web of lies, my entire life. That's right.
Now I know the episode to introduce Christina to.
It was terrible. No, she'll never listen to this. Nor will any of my family, which is why I can comfortably expose my lies here. But it was terrible, and I was like, wow, that is just dumb. Had I realized that this was going to be the introduction to a TV show, I would have been more forgiving. But because of that, I didn't realize there was a Clone Wars TV show happening until it was already in, like, its second or third season.
Yeah. And
then I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Heard and caught up, and then I realized, oh my gosh, that movie that was terrible was the precursor to the show. Okay, but now that I was already in love with it, I could go back and watch the movie and be way more forgiving because I knew where it was going to go, you know? No, but if you look at the actual TV episodes that aired on Cartoon Network,
right,
much stronger start than Resistance.
Okay.
A couple of things that I hope will happen to make this much better is Tam Rivora. She is the main setup here is you have Jaeger, who used to fight for the rebellion but now is retired and is like, I just want to be left alone. Poe said, for old time's sake, I'm calling in a favor. You need to let this spy, Kaz, work for you as his cover. And he said, fine, for old time's sake, I will allow that, but I will not be helping him nor participating in his espionage activities, because I am retired and I want to be left alone. We need more Jaeger. He is one of the best things about this show. He is grounded, he is much more serious, and frankly, it's like, based on his behavior, I don't know how the entire station does not suspect that he is not who he says he is, Kaz.
Yeah. Because
he's a bumbling idiot. Everybody knows it, and yet everybody accepts that Jaeger, who's a pretty down-to-earth, serious kind of guy, accepts him as an employee.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So they need to bring more Jaeger into the story and get the focus less off Kaz and his, literally, Jar Jar Binks hijinks. He's very... When I had that realization, I was like, holy crap, there's a lot of Jar Jar Binks showing up here. Ugh, no wonder I'm not really finding myself attached to his character.
Yeah.
But Tam Rivora is the other employee of Jaeger. Or one of the other two employees. There's 3 employees. There's Kaz, there's Tam, and there's Niku.
Yeah.
Niku, we talked about him before in another Nerf Nugget about Resistance.
He's the alien, right?
He's the alien who basically has Asperger's.
Yeah.
Which is a very convenient plot exposition device, but he's a little off. Tam Rivora is kind of like Jaeger in that she's really dedicated, she's serious, and more importantly, she's believable, both as a spy and as a mechanic.
Yeah. Like,
she's not a spy, at least as far as we know, but she would be way more believable. She's way more calm and actually notices things, around her, like she's making good observations. She's really great. Definitely they need to show more of Captain Doza and the First Order. Because I know they're trying to, you don't want to rush into things too quickly. I get it. But the politics of the First Order and how it is trying to bend the rules of the galaxy as far as they can without breaking so that they can still play innocent victim when they need to is great. Every time you see them coming in and strong-arming and bullying Captain Doza is great for setting up the First Order that we don't get to see a lot of in the new trilogy. So give us more of that would be great. We still have only really met 3 of the 5 aces, and we're more than halfway through the first season. So we've met Freya Fenris a little bit, which is Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, a Critical Role alum. We've met Hype Faison, Donald Faison's character, and Tora Doza, who is the daughter of Captain Doza. So those 3 we've met, and we've got to know them a little bit. But Griff Halloran, I definitely want to meet. He's an ex-Imperial pilot who's now just this racer / station defense guy.
Yeah. And
he's kind of gruff and, So I'm like, I want more of him. Plus he has a cool looking ship, so I want to see more of it. He's got a weird hybrid between a TIE fighter and a shuttle. It's a weird kind of I don't know how to. It's really cool looking though, which is why I'm like, give me more of him. I want to see more of his ship and what it can do because it looks totally cool. And then I know that budget is probably the reason we don't see more of these 2, but Oscar Isaac and Gwendolyn Christie as Poe Dameron and Captain Phasma have been great every time they've been on screen. They've been fantastic. Especially
I knew they had
Phasma.
Oscar Isaac, but I didn't realize they got Gwendolyn Christie to do that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
She's
she's great.
Oh, yeah,
she does a great job. Even, like, because, I mean, you see her in the new trilogy, and she is just physically intimidating. She's a giant, you know? I mean, she's got that awesome, like, British, you know, nasty voice, you know, like all the good Imperials do, you know, so she's the perfect Imperial. But even that carries through really well, even into this animated series. It carries over very well. She's prime. She's just great. She's been in...
She's a classic.
Yeah, she does kind of the end of one episode where it's kind of like, it's Captain Phasma, cut to black, you know?
Yeah.
And then she's in another episode a couple episodes later, where she actually has a lot more speaking, and she's like, oh, get him, whatever, you know, giving out orders and stuff, and it's just like, yes, and yes, give me more of that, she's great. Sadly, they need to really grow up and mature the main character quickly, or I think the show will not do as well.
Yeah, that was a lot of the main fan base.
Well, and especially because the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, not only... So Jar Jar has a couple of big flaws. One, there's way too much, like, slapstick physical stuff with Jar Jar. And then also he's got a lot of really dumb lines. Both of these are present in Kaz.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of lines where it's just kind of like, oh, I understand that he is a young pilot who is naive, and you're trying to convey that, but he's coming off as really irritating and not naive and innocent. And then slapstick in every episode.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, tone it down.
Well, that sounds too like, I remember one of my problems with Jar Jar, I think, in Phantom Menace is just that he's rather atonal. Like, he doesn't seem to fit with everything else that's going on around him. Like, and I feel like part of the reason he's there is to make up for the fact that so much of the plot of Phantom Menace is just political dispute, is maneuvering and all of that. Yeah. And so they're like, okay, we got to put in something for the kids, something that's really light and everything. But what that ends up doing is you've got this clash of this atonal, like, goofy slapstick stuff next to this more serious stuff that just never meshes.
Yeah. They, and I think the show would be plenty interesting enough even for young kids, because there's like, BB-8's in here. BB-8 is cute. He's gonna draw in the kids.
He's adorable.
He is adorable. He really is. So, like, there's enough in there. And plus, like, they've had enough episodes with, like, the episode where the First Order's hunting these two kids. I'm like, that's pretty relatable, and these kids are way more likable than your main character, and they're only going to be in this for one episode. Ugh, you know? Yeah. That's not great, guys. I don't know, and the sad thing is, Dave Filoni is not directly involved with Resistance.
Wasn't that one of the exciting points for you?
Is that, well, he's involved with the story, but he's not involved with the day-to-day.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I was definitely willing to give it a chance, because I'm like, if Dave Filoni is ultimately in charge, it will ultimately be good. And I still believe that will be the case with Resistance. I think it will ultimately be good. But you can tell Dave Filoni is not there on the day-to-day stuff. Mm-hmm. It is very clear that is the case. It does not, and he's not there on the day-to-day stuff for this because he's working, as we now know, on season 7 of the Clone Wars.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is his day-to-day stuff. So that, I'm like, yeah, that's in the bag. That we don't have to worry about that even for 1 second. That's going to be great. I just hope that then after he's done with season 7 of Clone Wars, if they don't continue to give more Clone Wars, which maybe they will, who knows, but at this point I think it's unlikely. They've kind of said season 7 and then that's it, but they're always free to take more of my money, you know. So if he does finish with Clone Wars and then comes back to Resistance,
it's going to depend on how much traffic Clone Wars brings to Disney's streaming service.
Yeah, I think it'll bring plenty, because Clone Wars was wildly popular. So I hope that he eventually will come back and get a little more involved with the day-to-day of Resistance, just because I think it'll improve the quality a little bit. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so that's what has happened with Resistance. Those are my thoughts on it. So
it's a little bit disappointing to hear. I was hoping for a little bit better.
Like, it has some, like, it looks pretty. I'm not as bothered by the art style as I thought I would be. Mm-hmm. So that has been a pleasant surprise for me. Yeah. And the overall story is pretty solid, but there's a lot of the little details that trip you up. Like Kaz is acting like Jar Jar Binks.
Right.
which every time there's like that he, drops a tool, tries to catch it, and it's spinning in the air, then it falls and hits him on the head. Where I'm like, okay, this is not Tom and Jerry. I understand that the audience is not 30-plus-year-old men. I am aware of this. However, it does seem a bit excessive when every episode will have several instances of that.
Well, how do your girls react to it? They're the target audience.
Yeah, they like it. There was one little sort of slapstick thing that I was like, okay, that was pretty well done. So they, because Kaz wants to be like a racer, a professional racer, pilot. That's his dream. And the Resistance is, he feels like a moral duty, which is why he's doing it. But like, he's just stoked to be on Colossus, being amongst these racers, right? So they're doing like a race or whatever that he's not flying in, but they're flying past like the garage where he works. And so he's outside like, just staring up, like a kid in the candy store as the ships are all flying by. And he's just like, oh man, that's so great. And he doesn't realize that the little repulsor cart that is holding a bunch of expensive like engine pieces and stuff is slowly going towards the edge of the station and is going to fall off into the ocean. And by the time he notices, he's like, oh no, and like goes to try to save it, and it falls off because, it weighs a ton.
1,000,000 pounds.
And he is just a scrawny kid. And I'm like, okay, I saw that coming, but that was still pretty funny. And then at the end of the episode, the same thing happens again. And I was like, I can see this is going to happen again, but that's still pretty funny. It's just, I don't know, they played it off well. And that's the thing, is like, I don't mind a little bit of slapstick humor because even the Clone Wars, even Rebels still had that a little bit. Not often, but a little bit. And when they did it,
Clone Wars, yeah.
But it still played off well.
Yeah.
And I think for the most part, it's not playing off well in Resistance. But there are a couple of times like this little thing falling off the edge that I'm like, okay, I see where this is coming. I can see it coming a mile away, but that was still funny. That was still clever. I guess it's the plausibility. Like a kid being distracted by the thing he loves and he doesn't realize that this thing is rolling away. Who of us hasn't had something similar happen, But where he's literally tossing a wrench in the air trying to catch it and it plonks him on the head. Or there was one in like the first episode, he literally did like a cartoon, suspend in midair, flail around, fall. Where I'm like, whew, that was pretty rough to swallow that. So there have been a couple of things like that just seem a little less plausible as far as like a little buffoonery. So anyway, they've got some work to do, but I'm confident that they'll sharpen it up. So
do you think that Filoni will step away from Clone Wars to try and course correct over this break, or
it will depend after the first season is over and they get final numbers for the whole season and for each episode, that they can take a step back, take the summer back and look at it and go, okay, what went well, what didn't? They will have time to digest all the comments on the internet and say, yeah, what is working, what isn't. I think I would be surprised if there is not a course correction for the second season. How much of a course correction remains to be seen. But again, I don't think there needs to necessarily be a huge course correction. Again, the overall story is pretty good. We've got the First Order paying pirates to attack this station to force the station to sign an agreement with the First Order. That's decently complex political maneuvering for a kids' show. I'm okay with that. You've got, they surprisingly haven't focused hardly at all on the Resistance until this very last episode before the winter break. So I'm like, okay, so, depending on the second half of the first season, we may see more of the Resistance having to work within the legal and moral laws that they have, while also trying to oppose the First Order, who has no qualms about breaking legal or moral laws. We haven't seen any of that yet, but I'm hoping that we will see that in the second half. Because this first half has basically been, Kaz, you'll be a good plant, but we don't know how much we can trust you. We don't know how much use you will be. You're a young kid. But now that he's successfully defended the station, he's reported good intel back to General Leia. The whole point of this meeting Princess Leia, or General Organa, is, yeah, we trust you. You've given us good intel. You're one of us now, kind of a thing for real. So I expect that we will see in the second half of the first season more of the actual Resistance doing Resistance-y things. But who knows? We'll just have to see.
And how much were Poe and Phasma actually in this?
Poe more than Phasma. Poe is there throughout the entire first two episodes, which they just did as an hour-long pilot.
Right.
So he's there for all of that. He checks in by voice. I guess he's a voice actor, so it's technically all by voice. But, but in the universe, he checks in like over comms like twice. And then he shows up in person to gather intel once, and that's when they get the pilot rescued, or the pirate, that they then bring back. And they fight the Kowakian monkey or ape lizard, which was way cool. It's so cool looking, guys. Go look it up. Best episode so far. And then he's there in another episode, the one where we meet Phasma, actually. They basically, like, they get word that there's some distress call or something like that, so they go to investigate the distress call. When they get there, they realize there's a whole station, and they realize it's a First Order station, but nobody's there. So they're like, well, let's go investigate real quick. Then Phasma lands and is like, 2 Resistance X-Wings parked in our garage. All right, guys, let's go get them, And then they have a little firefight and whatever, and it's really cool. That episode is really cool to see Phasma being Phasma. Yeah. Much more so than we've ever seen in the movies, where she's giving orders. You see that she is a formidable opponent. So that's been pretty cool. And there's a lot of Poe's banter, where he's making snarky jokes and stuff. And then in the final, the mid-series, or mid-season final.
Right.
Poe is there to be like, hey, I've got a present for you. Here's an X-Wing, Meet General Leia. Great. So, we'll see how the second half goes.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for more. The most interesting episodes are when the First Order shows up.
Right.
By far the most interesting. And I'm not just saying that as a lover of the Empire and its stepchild here. But they really are the most, narratively compelling episodes. So I'm really hoping that we see more of the First Order getting into it a little bit with the Resistance, or pushing the station around more. Just more First Order has created by far the best storylines. So I'm hoping for more of that.
Pretty common. Villains drive the story.
They really do. So, and you've got a great villain in great potential for a villain in Phasma, and also then the 2 other colored stormtroopers, Commander Pyre, who's the gold armored guy. Yep. And the Elric, whatever his name is, the red TIE pilot.
You rankist.
Yep, I sure am. Elric. Yeah, they're quite interesting so far. So it's been pretty cool. There we go.
So, worth a watch for our listeners. Wait till they're out on DVD. What do you think?
Until they got a full season to see. And
yeah, if you haven't... Okay, so I will never not tell people to watch Star Wars. So, yeah, you should go watch it.
Don't watch the holiday special.
Don't watch the holiday... That's true. That's true. Holiday special gets an exception. It's terrible. I'll never do that again. That was so bad. I should have listened to Chris. So if you were a diehard fan, go watch it. If you consider yourself a pretty hardcore Star Wars fan, go watch Rebels. It is worth it. I have enjoyed it. I do have some problems, but I have overall enjoyed it. If you're kind of middle of the road, wait till it's all over, then watch it on some illegal website somewhere. Or wait till the fall when Disney puts it on their Disney Plus. That's fine too. If you don't really care all that much, just wait till till the next Nerf Nugget on Star Wars Resistance, I guess. So there you go.
Sounds good.
Yep. We'll see you guys later.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Do we do that on the Nerf Nuggets?
I think we usually do, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we have to.
Yeah.
I'm Anna Graves, and thank you.
Wait, what was that?
What? Why are we still here?
I thought the episode was over. Apparently not. Oh, look at that! It's the trailer! The mid-season trailer for Rebels or Resistance. I don't even know what show I'm talking about. I'm so thrown off. Oh my gosh, these two. I wish you listeners could see their faces. Their disappointment.
I did not realize how far you were going to go with that.
I was going all the way.
I appreciate selling it, going all in.
This is theater of the mind, friend.
That was like dad jokes, but even worse because it wasn't even a dad joke.
Oh, it was so good. Come on, Chris, back to our improv days. Yeah. So we are interrupting the lovely Anna Graves because literally the day after we recorded the Resistance Nerf Nugget
that you just listened to, they came out with a mid-season trailer that actually looks like it may solve a lot of the problems I complained about. So based on this mid-season trailer, it definitely looks like Kaz is
growing up a little bit and stop being so childish.
Potentially.
Looks a lot less Jar. Now, yeah, potentially. We got to wait for the season to finish.
Either that or they're just showing you his least Jar Jar moments.
Yeah.
Maybe.
They did still have some slapstick even in the trailer.
What? Oh, the little things.
The froggy things.
Yeah, jumping out.
on the
Yeah, that's
stormtroopers,
true.
Yeah.
But overall, it looks darker. It looks way more First Order oriented, First Order Resistance oriented, which was one of my chief complaints, that the best episodes were the First Order, and they're barely there. So the second half looks like they're going to ramp it up, which is great. And then one of the cool things, or one of the questions we talked about was we were not exactly sure how far this is going to go, because the show starts 6 months before The Force Awakens, but we didn't know when this was going to end. But it looks like by the end of Season 1, we're going to be at the end of Force Awakens.
/ basically the beginning of Last
/
Jedi.
beginning of Last Jedi, that basically this trailer shows General Hux giving his speech
Unless
to
they're
the First
introducing
Which
time travel to the Star Wars
please,
galaxy,
I
which
hope
I hope
not.
they don't.
Please
Seems improbable based on what I know of this show.
Which is pretty cool, because that means Resistance will carry through the events of Last Jedi as well, and give us some more fleshed out story of what the rest of the universe is going through at this
Hopefully
time.
they can take advantage of that to lead into Episode 9 nicely.
And, yes, there's a year time gap between 8 and 9 in universe that Resistance can fill. So that will be pretty cool to see them rebuilding the Resistance from a Millennium Falcon's worth of people to something more.
And apparently whoever was on this station.
Yeah. So it looks really good, and it looks to have addressed many of the problems. I also mentioned how Yeager was really great, and they need to show more of him. It does look like they're headed in that direction. It does look like they are going to show us more of the Aces, who are also very interesting, that we've also not seen very many people or very much of. So it seems like they kind of are wiretapping us. So good job, Disney. If you're listening, please continue to wiretap our show and take our good ideas.
They wiretapped us from the
say,
future, probably,
You don't know what tech
ago.
Disney has. They have Disney dollars to throw at
us and
these.
then threw that trailer together in like 16 hours.
Yeah.
It's Disney, man.
If that's the case, those are some godlike artists
They've
on
got
their team. Which, I mean, is
wheelbarrows full of
untrue,
Disney
but-
dollars, Ross, that they can just dump on this.
Yeah.
So.
This is approaching like schizophrenic levels of like, no, they're listening to everything we're saying.
Anyway, so there you go.
We'll have to wear a tinfoil hat with mouse ears.
Yeah. No, the masters just act like dishes. They just broadcast it further. Anyway, so there you go, listeners. There's our update to that. So
Go watch the trailer. We'll see if we
go.
can
Yeah,
put
go
a
watch
link.
the trailer. Go let us know what you thought.
Kyler actually shared it on our Twitter feed
Oh, did you
Yes.
at More Civilized.
Yep.
So you can find it
'Cause
there
it
if
was
you don't want to
really
look it up
good.
yourself.
It was
Way
good.
better than the trailer for the first season. So.
You know what? Actually, but while we're here, I do have more questions.
Okay.
Just after seeing this trailer.
Yeah.
This seems the trailer does look like a major tonal shift from
Yes, it does.
what you've told us about in the first part of the season. So how does that really work?
Well, I wonder if it's like Rebels. I made this comparison in the main part of this episode as well, that Rebels spent the first half of its first season basically going, info dump, here's the characters. Now we can get on with the story. And there was a tonal shift. It did get a lot darker in Rebels as well, that second half of the first season.
But this is a far greater
this is
shift
a
than what that was.
much greater,
Potentially.
Because
Potentially,
again, there's
yeah.
also still the audience that you have to consider, because the first half of the season was very much targeted towards the younger crowd. It was not for us,
Yeah.
30-somethings.
Sadly.
I mean, this trailer looks like it could be more targeted towards us, but that's the thing, though, is you don't do that
Yeah.
with
Who
with
knows?
the television show. You don't shift your audience halfway through a season and by 20 years.
Who knows?
So,
I mean,
I don't know.
unless
I kind of feel
They
like
got-
that's what those little bits of slapstick were there for, were just as kind of like a...
to get the kids.
Well, just more of a,
Feet
hey,
wet.
for those of you who liked where it was, it's not leaving. Like,
Yeah.
so don't worry about that.
And if they do, like, make it that much darker, like, if that trailer is an indication of what the whole second half will be like, and they keep the slapstick in, that's a trade I'll make.
Mhm.
That sounds great. So, yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, just to be the opposition, I mean, let's be aware that it might just be a deceptive trailer.
Oh, I hope not.
But-
It's really gotten my hopes up for the second half. So by the time you're hearing this, listeners, it will be tomorrow. Tomorrow night, Sunday, the, 14th something, or 13th of
Whatever it
January.
is. Sure,
No,
that's
it's
okay.
the 13th.
Yeah.
Sorry, January the 13th. Sunday, January 13th is when it comes back. It's on Disney Channel / illegally watch it online. Go watch it.
Or legally. You can do it legally.
You can pay Disney a lot of extra money to watch it.
Or YouTube, I just found out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, apparently you can rent the episodes
You
for
can
like
rent
$2.
the episodes. Yeah, that's true.
But,
yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
Either way, it adds up after a while.
After a season, for sure.
Yep.
After 11 episodes, it'll be $22.
Which is why last year when Rebels was only on Disney XD, which is a channel I don't get, so I just bought the season on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Or not on YouTube, on iTunes.
Mm.
And then bought it again on DVD.
That's why we wait for the DVDs.
Well, I would normally just wait for the DVD, but I couldn't not. Rebels was really good. Season 3 and 4 were very good, so I bought them twice.
So I finished last season. Remember how we get derailed real easy?
Yep, sure
Anyway.
do. Okay, we're going to turn you over to Anna Graves again so she can take you away from us. Okay, bye.
All right.
Abrupt.
Yeah. Short and sweet.
I'm Anna Graves, and thank you for listening to a more civilized podcast.